Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ali and today I'm going to talk about a very old and very famous book, The Odyssey by Homer. This is the Barnes& Noble's edition. Look at the cover. It is dark blue and silver with a ship in the middle. It already tells you that this story is about traveling and adventure. Let's talk about the book, the author, the story, the characters, and what I think about it. Homer lived almost 3000 years ago in ancient Greece. People are not sure if he was one person or if multiple poets used the name Homer. He wrote two famous books, Iliad and Odyssey. Both are long poems about heroes, gods, and adventures. The Iliad is about war, and the Odyssey is about a long journey back home. Not much more is known about Homer. The Odyssey is an epic poem, which means it's a long story written in verses about the hero's adventures. It belongs to the mythical adventure genre because it includes gods, monsters, and magic. What I also like about this old book is that you can find out how people in ancient Greece used to live. You can learn about their rituals and their culture. Many modern stories like Percy Jackson or The Lord of the Rings were inspired by this book. So when you read the Odyssey, you can see where a lot of those ideas came from. Before I talk about the plot, quick disclaimer. Ancient Greek names are hard to pronounce, so most of the time I will pronounce them incorrect. Please forgive me. Here's what happens, but don't worry, I won't spoil the ending. The main character is Odysseus, the king of Ithaca. After the Trojan War, he tries to go home to his wife Penelope and his son Telemachus, but his journey takes 10 long years. While he's gone, Penelope waits at home. Suitors come from all over the world to try to win her hand, but she keeps believing her husband will return. The story starts with Telemachus meeting Athena. She wants him to set off and find any news about his father Odysseus. Meanwhile, Odysseus is being held captive on the island of Calypso. Till one day the gods decide that he has been punished enough and Calypso lets him go. Odysseus spends 10 days and 10 nights on a raft, until one day he finally makes it to the Phoenicians. They welcome him and ask him why he's here. Odysseus goes on to tell the Phoenicians about all the hardships he faced while trying to get home. This is the most famous part of Homer's Odyssey and probably the most interesting. He talks about almost getting trapped by the Lotus Eaters, almost getting devoured by a Cyclops, and also being held captive by the witch Circe. But I won't go into detail because the Odyssey is a long story. You probably don't want any spoilers. Now I'm going to talk about my favorite scene, but it will contain spoilers, so anybody who wants to read the book, just skip this part. My favorite scene was when Alcinoos, a suitor in the house of Odysseus, got killed by Odysseus because Alcinoos always used to bad talk people. He used to insult the poor and the rich, and he did not care about any other person. So I was really happy when he got shot with an arrow in the neck. My least favorite scene is when Odysseus, after he escapes from the Cyclops, starts taunting the Cyclops by revealing his name to him after they escape, and then the Cyclops keeps throwing rocks at them to stop them from escaping, and Odysseus still won't stop taunting the Cyclops. And because he said his name in the end, the Cyclops then asked his father Poseidon to curse Odysseus and his fellow crew members. Now let's move on to the characters. Before I talk about the characters, I wanted to talk about how they were written. I didn't like the way the characters were written, but also have to keep in mind that the book was written 3000 years ago, so that's why the writing style may not be pleasant for everybody. And I also felt that the writing was a little sexist and misogynistic, but for that time it was probably normal. The first character I want to talk about is Odysseus. Odysseus is brave, clever, but he's also proud. Sometimes his pride gets him into trouble. For example, the Cyclops. I also want to talk about Penelope. I personally didn't like Penelope because the only thing she really did was cry and sleep and maybe persuade the suitors to. But on the contrary, I really liked how they wrote Telemachus, because he actually felt like a young adult who's starting to question everything and who's not happy with the way the things are right now, and he wants the suitors gone from his house. At first I thought the book would be boring, too difficult because it's old. Even though it's hard to read because of course it was written 3000 years ago, I think most people could still comprehend what was written. I feel like there's a lot of action, and I also feel like this book is great for people who like Greek. If you've read the Iliad, you can notice the differences between the books, because Iliad is more about honor and war, and Odyssey is more about culture, customs, and family. It also influenced many other books and movies. For example, Percy Jackson has Greek gods and monsters from this story. The Lion King and The Hobbit have heroes who leave home and have to find their way back, just like Odysseus. So you can say that Homer created a story which still inspires stories today. I'd recommend this book to anyone who likes adventure or stories or Greek mythology. But I also think that you should be over 13 years old because it is hard to comprehend and maybe you won't understand what's going on all the time. It's also great for people who want to learn more about ancient Greek culture, because like I mentioned, a lot of the ancient customs get described with a lot of detail. So that was my booktube about Homer's Odyssey. If you guys like this video, let me know in the comments so I can continue on making booktubes about old books which people seem to forget. Thanks for watching and see you next time.